Tuesday, it is time for Coffee and Cursey Words. We have so much to cover today. I have a lot of thoughts. We just have so much to cover. First, if you're in the replay crew, love you. Thank you. Replay crew. We will have timestamps down below. So if you want to skip to a particular topic, you can. If you're here live, good morning. Let me know where you're coming from and what you are drinking. I have bulletproof coffee this morning. It's a lot. Today's a lot. Today is a whole lot, but we're going to do it together. And that's the point. Also, I'm going to share something new that I got that came yesterday that thrilled me because I am sometimes a 13-year-old child, which makes me relate sometimes really well to my 13-year-old who's at camp this week, which is weird. It's weird not having him in the house. The lights are orange because it's that kind of a day. So we should get into it. Oh, and it binged. So should we bing first? We're going to bing first because it binged. You guys, it binged this morning. So we're going to bing for 130. Even though it didn't bing live, it binged. We're going to celebrate it anyway. Oh, it binged. Move your head. Ah! So let's get into the rest of the show. We've got a lot to talk about today. Hey there. If we haven't met yet, I'm Emily D. Baker, the badass lawyer and everyone's favorite legal commentator. I'm the host of The Emily Show, and I break down the legal shit behind the news and pop culture stories we all want to talk about. I have been a licensed attorney for over 15 years, but this is not legal advice. I should warn you, I'm a big fan of the Cursey words. This channel is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not fuckery. All right, everybody. The end of that intro is what we are going to be challenging today because we are going to be diving into some facts. We are going to need facts. Facts are what we need. But can I just share? I got a new case for my AirPod Pros and it can actually hang on your clothing or backpack or purse. And it looks like a Pokeball, and it literally gives me all the joy in the world. Look at that. This has given me so much joy. And if I seem heavy today, it is because we have heavy topics to talk about first, and then we're going to get into other stuff. But this has look, it makes my AirPods way heavier. Yes, it does. I don't care. It entertains me to no end. And hopefully with a larger case, I won't lose them this time. If you follow me on Instagram, you will hear me lamenting about how I lost my AirPod Pros, and I was super bummed about it. I subsequently found them. So my husband's very happy to have a new pair of AirPod Pros. That's how tech works in my house. Like I get something new and then it's a downstream effect. It's like everybody shift one phone down. So let's talk about what we're talking about today. Today is on the docket. We are going to talk a little bit about the Creepshow Art situation. I've been asked about it a lot. And I do have thoughts, and we're going to go through how I evaluate information when it comes at me. And it takes me time to parse information because it really does take me time to thoughtfully parse information. And I'll talk about that. Then I have more thoughts on Housewife and a Hustler. When we get there, I'm going to ask you if you guys watched it or not, and we'll talk about that. Then we have new documents in the Josh Duggar case. Then we have a lot of new documents in the Jen Shah case. And we are going to do an overview of those today and a deep dive of those on Friday because it's so much. We're going to do an overview of the most kind of the interesting stuff and the declaration from Jen Shah herself, and then a deep dive on Friday. We need a deep dive on it. It's a lot. There's multiple. Well, we'll get into it when we get into it. So first up on the docket, let's get into thoughts. I have thoughts, lawyer thoughts, not legal advice. And I'm going to tell you how I approached this particular situation, how I'm approaching it when we're talking about it. And I'm asking all of you in the chat, look, we say this whenever we cover anyone, particularly when we cover people who are problematic or who are more polarizing. We're all problematic. Everyone has problematic stuff. We're human. Humans are problematic. It's like the nature of being human, some more than others. We all have stuff. But when we talk about people who are polarizing is the word I was looking for, it can get very heated. I just asked, like I ask with every creator, to be respectful, and we're going to stick to the facts. I know a lot of you are also fans or had been fans and supporters of Creepshow Art and her channel, and all of this comes as a shock and a surprise, and it leads to a lot of questions. So with that in mind, and my appreciation for your respect in the chat and for our mods, so they don't have to be like, we're not name calling, because those are the rules. Other chat rules, we kind of stay on the topic that we're on, so it is easy for everyone in the chat to focus and for me to focus. And then we'll get to questions at the end of all of the topics. So let's get into it. Creepshow Art is a creator here on YouTube, or was a creator here on YouTube. I'm not sure if after all of this she will be coming back. There are a ton of videos on the situation. I encourage you to go watch them and form your own opinion. I'm going to talk to you about how I parse through information and why it took me some time to talk about this. First, Creepshow and I have been friendly acquaintances. We have conversations. We have texted. We have been in touch. We have talked about things going on the internet and had things in common, and really enjoyed her as a supporter of this channel, enjoyed supporting her content, and was completely floored with all of the allegations that came out from the stuff on LOL Cow or LOL Cow. I'm not going to get into those. There's great channels that have broken this down. Omnia's broken it down. Tipster's broken it down. Truth Sleuth's broken it down. Drama and Opinions has broken it down. Ready to Glare has a great video on this. Emily Artful's video should be watched. Like, if you want to dive into this situation, please go watch all of the breakdowns, because this is wild stuff that's going on, and everyone who I've seen is still kind of shocked about it. And when big allegations come out, this isn't like an old tweet where you're like, I don't know why you would have said that. This is way more than that. The allegations of what was said on this listserv, that it is an anonymous listserv. The anonymous listserv has rules, and if you break the rules, they will out you and say, we've got your IP address, we know that it's you, this is how we know that it's you, and these are the posts they made. And that's what they did. They said, we know, and this is why we know, and this is how we know, and this is what we're saying she said. So there's a lot of information there. You can go read all of them. Horrible things said on that listserv. Things that go completely against the type of content that Creepshow always made. On others making videos. Yes, I know Smokey Glow made a video, and I know that Omegan made a video as well. So the reason it took me some time is because, one, I don't come onto my channel to just dump speculation on you guys. It is not my goal to just dump on the law nerds. We are here for facts, not fuckery. The thing with facts, not fuckery, is that we have to, when you evaluate facts, not fuckery, you have to parse your feelings first. And when you parse your feelings first, that can take some time. And for me, it does take a lot of time. And the reason it takes time is because I have to deal with like how I feel about it, because my feelings aren't really relevant in all of this, other than it makes it hard for me to evaluate information until I've parsed through my feelings, which can take me some time, because I don't want to bring all of my feelings into it and evaluate information from the feels, because there's a part of me that hopes that this is all some mistake, that all of her friends weren't hurt, that this wasn't going, didn't say things that were completely opposite of how she presented online, that these things weren't her. I suspect that that's probably not the case, because there is quite a lot of circumstantial evidence in regard to this, and it's tough. I reached out to Creepshow Art when the LOL Cal started coming out, and when the LOL Cow stuff started coming out, Creepshow put up statement on her community tab saying, this isn't me. I've been stalked. Somebody's spoofing my IP addresses. And while spoofing IP addresses can happen, it's hard. It's pretty hard for it to happen over a long period of time. It doesn't mean it can't happen. I'm always torn. I don't want to get into the particulars of that because I don't want my videos to be used as a way to A, instruct people on how to perpetrate shit on the internet more, or B, to use it as an excuse. And I am always mindful. When I was a district attorney, we did a training regarding the O.J. Simpson prosecution. And one of the things we looked at was the way that the investigators interviewed initially O.J. And they interviewed giving a lot of opportunity for excuse. Like, oh, well, it could have been this, or, oh, were you there? Or, oh, were you there with this? Or, oh, was it this? Which is not what you want to do when you interview somebody. And the reason I keep that in mind is because I don't want to be like, I don't want to speculate in a way that could then be used as like, no, see, it was this. And I don't want to put ideas out there in the atmosphere for others to take on. So it's taken me time to parse through that and to figure out what I wanted to say. So yeah, the LOL Cal stuff, the things that were said on an anonymous listserv are horrible. They are completely out of character from what we saw on the internet from Creepshow, and completely out of character from the conversations she and I had behind the scenes. But for somebody to spoof an IP address for years is difficult. It's difficult. Is it impossible? No, it's difficult. Very difficult. So I also watched the Emily Artful video. Her video is difficult to watch because of the amount of trauma that she's been through. That doesn't mean you shouldn't watch it. It just means if you've also been through trauma, absolutely make sure that you know that going in. I thought she did a fantastic job of laying out what she's been through, what was held over her head, how she was kept silent by shame. I think that anyone shaming someone based on their past or their past addiction is disgusting. I think that all of that, what she shared, I absolutely believe her experience. I believe when she talks about the things and how they connected for her, but I also understand that what Emily Artful has shared is not always something that can be used in a prosecution. So when we look at what Emily Artful has shared, her experience comes across as 100% authentic, but it also completely outlines how difficult it is for victims of cybercrime to actually figure out who's doing it, how they're doing it, where they're doing it from, and then to go further with prosecuting somebody. So when we look at a criminal side of things and everything Emily Artful has shared, she shares all of the difficulties that people can face trying to stop cyber harassment. And it is very, very difficult. First of all, people are kept silent through shame, which is horrendous, but it's something that's used against victims of all kinds of crimes all of the time. And when it comes to cyber stuff, it's really hard to tie back who it is, and not just tie back an IP address to a city or a location, but as we'll talk about later in the Duggar case, how do you know who's at the keyboard? And proving who's at the keyboard is different than in my gut, knowing what the circumstance is. And if you want, you need to come up with your own conclusion on that. It's for each and every person to look at all the information presented, try to understand it, and then try to evaluate it. And sometimes understand and evaluate takes longer, takes a lot longer than just, oh, this happened and I have a knee-jerk reaction to it. Understand and evaluate is how we get to facts, not fuckery. That's not to say I don't believe Emily Artful. I absolutely believe her. What she's been through follows the pattern of what so many victims of harassment, stalking, threats, and cyber harassment go through. There's a way that things unfold. And hearing somebody authentically share their experience, I think is instructive and valuable for everyone on the internet to be like, this is how this happened to me. And I'm, I don't want to say proud because that's patronizing, and I don't know Emily Artful. I'm inspired that she was able to sit down and parse her own facts and her own feelings and say, these are the facts that I have. These are the feelings. This is how I made these conclusions. These are my conclusions. I don't know 100% all of it. And I think she did a brilliant job at that. And I think that it's instructive for people worrying about what happens when stuff like this goes on. So I asked the channel members if they had questions about this, because I don't want to answer a ton of questions on it. My biggest reason why is, one, I'm still trying to understand and parse my feelings on it, because there's parts of me, and I don't want to put myself at the center of this, because this is not about me. Other than we had a friendly relationship in the online space and have had conversations offline, and she's shared me on her channel and I've shared her on my channel. And I thought that I knew her some. I mean, not super closely, but someone that I knew that if I had something and could reach out via text and be like, hey, what do you think about this? That I felt like we had that kind of a more than a collegial friendship, but like a collegial friendship. And I know that there are those who are very close to her that are devastated. Ready to Glare did a great video. I think Loie addressed it on Twitter. And it's not, I'm again, not trying to put myself in the center of it, but I also don't want to answer like, what about the legal stuff? When Emily Artful shared that she went to lawyers and went to police and they're like, what do you want us to do? That's what that is, right? Because lawyers are like, what would you like me to do? How would you like me to cease and desist people that we can't necessarily 100% track back to doing the thing, even though you know it's the person doing the thing? How do you prove who's at the keyboard without search warrants? And again, when we get into the Duggar stuff, we'll talk about how they proved he was the one at the keyboard, how you track IMEIs, how you prove, and it's still all circumstantial unless you have a video of somebody doing it, how you prove that the person's behind the thing. The actions after, Creepshow did put on her, like her friends part of her Instagram, because you can have a list of people that you know and do friends only, and did say, hey, don't defend me. Tipster talked about it and had kind of the exact words. I didn't screenshot any of it because I didn't know everything that was going to pop off later. And I was like, oh, well, when you're in the middle of the thing, I get it. That it's like, we're handling this legally. I'm like, okay, well, if you got wrongly accused of doing this stuff, I get it. She then deleted her Instagram. I reached out again to see if she was okay, because no matter what people are going through, I imagine this feels like a lot. And even if, and it seems like possibly that's the case, you guys are I'm letting you make your own decisions on that. But if everything that's alleged is stuff that she did, even if it's not, having all of this alleged against you can be very hard. And I reached out and was like, are you okay? I have not heard back. She never asked me for legal advice surrounding any of this. We didn't really talk directly about this situation. I didn't want to ask, like, prove to me it's not you. It was, are you okay? This is a lot. I'm sure other friends reached out. Ready to Glare talked about that. I don't know if she'll come back to YouTube. She indicated to me that she might not come back to YouTube. And that's kind of where we left it at the end of our conversation, that it's like, hey, I might just be off the internet. And she had already left Twitter on her public facing account, deleted her Instagram. So I don't know if her YouTube channel, I see in the chat, people are saying it might be deleted. I'll take a look in a second when I kind of wrap up, because I know this is ambling and wandering and it's a lot. And it also brings up stuff for me, which is why I say I have to understand and evaluate. And it takes me time, because it's hard for me to trust especially in the middle of the hacking and stuff I was going through, and we've done an investigation, none of those IPs came back similarly in location to the place where they're saying that IPs came back for Creepshow. None of those really indicated that that was what's involved for me, for my investigation into what was going on towards me. But she was super supportive when that was going through it. And so when you are going through stuff online and you trust people, and then that is brought into question, it's hard. I also want to understand first and then evaluate first, and I'm still having trouble understanding. So I'm still like, what is happening here? It's wild. So it's wild stuff, you guys. I encourage everyone to make their own decisions. I encourage you to watch the videos. Know that Emily Artful's video is and can be triggering if you're somebody who has a trauma background. I suggest that if you can, watch it. Look at the posts. It's a lot. I process through trying to understand, then trying to evaluate, then coming to my own decision. I'm still at a bit of a loss for words. But what Emily Artful outlines is the difficulty in prosecuting cybercrimes and the difficulty in proving how you know that the person who did it is the person behind the phone or the keyboard. In the Duggar case, you see, and we talked about this when I talked about the detention hearing, linking back the IMEI numbers, figuring out which password was being used, how that password related to him, that the same password on the computer was the password on the social media account. There's a lot more. And when you go to court, you can't just prove, oh, this person clicked the link and this is the IP address. There have to be search warrants, and the search warrants have to tie things back. And we're going to look into search warrants on Friday because 2 of them are attached in the Jen Shah case. One of them is a cell phone ping search warrant. So we're going to go through what that process is like, how you get search warrants, because that's how you prove things in court. That doesn't mean that what Emily Artful knows in her gut isn't true. It means it can be very hard to prove. If you are facing stuff like this, Emily talked about the fact that she did not document this until later on in the circumstance. Early on, document everything that you can. Document everything that you can. This kind of stuff builds on tracking it together. Circumstantial evidence is a valid form of evidence in a court of law, and I've talked about it a lot. There is circumstantial evidence. There is direct evidence. Direct evidence is me picking up the thing and throwing it, and you're like, oh, I just saw her throw that. I watched it happen with my eyes. I sat down in court and testified. I saw this thing thrown. Direct evidence. Circumstantial evidence is more like, and the example used in the California jury instructions is you see somebody come into the courthouse and they're in a raincoat, they're shaking off an umbrella, but you don't have any windows and you can't see that it's raining. Is that circumstantial evidence from that person that it's raining because they've walked in all wet, shaking off an umbrella? It's circumstantial evidence that it's raining, and then you can ask them questions about it. But seeing that is the circumstantial evidence that it's raining. So it's putting those things together. So that is my thoughts. There's a lot of information out there. Take a look at it. Clearly, I don't stand by any of the things that were said on LOL Cow and the things Emily Artful's been through. It's horrible, horrible stuff. And the process of cyber stalking and cyber harassment and the laws around it has to be addressed. They're getting better. They are not perfect, and it is a long process. Document everything. Protect your passwords. I talked about this in a couple videos. Use a password service like LastPass or 1Password to try to keep people out of your shit. Emily Artful talks about stuff that happened years ago, just years ago. And when we didn't know as much as we know about the internet now, losing her account, her Facebook account and things like that, screenshot things. I don't use Snapchat. I know Snapchat shows people when screenshots have been taken. Screenshot things that are sent to you, or don't use the platforms that don't support you being able to document things if you are the subject of harassment, and make police reports when you can so there's a paper trail. Keep your suspicions in a running document somewhere. It's like, this happened on this day, and then this happened on this day, and this happened here, and then this happened there. And keep it, because you will forget in years to come. Keep dates, because crimes need dates. We learned this from the Triller lawsuit. You need dates. Keep the dates, keep the screenshots, keep them saved. Just keep everything that you can to document stuff if you're going through it. It is a lot. So that is really my process of facts, not fuckery. The first is to understand. The next is to evaluate and work through it that way. Take in the information, look at it, and ask the normal questions. I know it feels like in the internet right now, you can't ask questions. You can ask questions and still believe someone. You can say, how does this match up? And you can have those questions for yourself. I know it feels like we can't ask questions in the internet world anymore, but you can. And that's part of understanding and evaluating information, is to ask those questions for yourself and have them answered for yourself and make those decisions for yourself. I'm sad about everything that's gone down. I'm sad for those who supported Creepshow. I'm sad for those who were targets of harassment. I'm always sad for those that are targets of internet harassment. It's just so sad. So the videos that I went through, and then we're going to move on to the housewife and a hustler, but the videos I went through on this were Emily Artful's video. And I will link them all after this, so the mods don't have to go find everything that's in my brain. I found Emily Artful's video really helpful. I found Ready to Glare's video very helpful. Those are both individuals that had personal and more substantial personal relationships with Creepshow than I did. I know Nick and Dustin have done videos. I know Truth Sleuth has done videos. I see you in the chat. Hello. I know that Bea's tarot yesterday was kind of creepy on the nose. So Bea Lucile has a reading on it. Who else talked about it? I know Dustin and Nick and Rich. I don't know if Peter talked about it. That's kind of not his style. Tipster talked about it. Omnia talked about it. Omegon talked about it. Smoky Glow talked about it. There are so many videos. So if you want to go parse the information for yourself, go parse the information for yourself. That said, two things can be true. The stuff Creepshow was doing behind the scenes, if it was her, even if it wasn't, this is a lot for her. But if it was her, it stands against everything she has stood for online and what her friends stand for. And the stuff on LolCow is just hateful and has got to be hurtful to the people who were targeted of it. But also, it doesn't mean all her videos were wrong. So I've seen creators being like, see, Creepshow's canceled, therefore I'm vindicated. No, two things can be true at once. And that's just all I'm going to say about that. It's sad. There's a lot of drama right now. Make your own decisions. And know that when it comes to the cyber legal stuff, I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't want to be instructive. But when it comes to the cyber legal stuff, it is very hard to spoof IPs long-term. It's not impossible. There would be a lot more information I would need to know to give you a better opinion on that. It's hard, but it's not impossible. I don't want to tell you what those factors are because I don't want to be helpful in that. But it's hard. The alleged doxing of Creepshow's sister, man, Creepshow was so vocal about being doxed and how hurtful it was to her being doxed. Being doxed is one of the worst things. And so for people to be like, and she doxed her family member, I'm like, fuck, man. But who else would have that information? It's one of those things where it's like, what else? That's really it. I know my thoughts are still jumbled because I'm still parsing through it, which is why I normally wait to talk about things. But I also know that the internet is immediate and people are like, everyone needs to address it. The things said are vile. The things that happened to Emily Artful are horrible. Parsing through the rest of the information is still going to take me time. So it's still going to take me time. And if I have other thoughts on it, I'll let you know. And it just, wow, just wow, just wow. So for everybody who supported Creepshow's channel, I'm sure that you feel betrayed. It's fair to feel betrayed. It's fair to feel like your trust has been broken. It's also fair to say, I want more information and I want to keep asking questions. It's fair. They're your feelings. Feelings are fair. Okay. And I will keep parsing through, trying to understand, trying to evaluate, and then letting you know, because I'm going to keep an eye on it. And if I do have any other thoughts, I'll let you know. I saw a comment that I wanted to share. And it totally skipped. It just totally skipped. But it's fair to, it's fair to ask questions and still believe people. You can absolutely believe Emily Artful and still be like, okay, and I want to see how these things connect. Those two things are totally fair. I don't really have anything else to say about that. That's where I'm at. I'll keep you posted if I have more thoughts. It's just, it's a lot, and it's a betrayal for creators, and it's a betrayal for her audience. And you know how I feel about betraying trust with your audience. So I don't know if Creepshow will come back. I don't know if she will come back to social media and address it. I don't know what will happen. Diva said it much more succinctly than I can, because Diva is amazing. Trust but verify. And I think that's normally what I go with. And sometimes it's hard when you trust but verify, and then you're like, I trusted and I thought I verified, and now maybe I'm wrong. But again, it's okay to be wrong. It's part of the human condition. We're wrong. And we have to change our minds. We have to update our opinions. We have to continue evaluating information as it comes in. And it's time to just move on. It's time to move on to another topic. So, Mika, I 100% believe Emily too. I do. What happened to her happened to her. It's tying it back to proving who did it is the different thing, which is why she said it was going to be expensive to get a private investigator and go through it, because it's hard. I hope now that she's starting to parse things together, she keeps evaluating that and turning over the information she can and pushing for the next steps, which would be search warrants and finding deeper information. I hope she pushes through that now that she's kind of connected things for herself. All right, let's move over. I got a few super chats I want to address as we move on. And thank you to the mods. I had the chat off so I wouldn't get distracted. It was hard enough for me to put my thoughts into a coherent sentence because I'm still in the process, which is why I don't normally talk about things when I'm still processing them. Lori Smith, with a super chat, some guy was trying to say that you are sketchy because you're close friends with Shannon. It was a huge reach. I mean, people reach on the internet. That's what they do. Friendly conversation is not the same as intimate friendship. I mean, Shannon and I have had a collegial friendship for maybe 6 months that we've known each other, or have chatted on Instagram and chatted a little bit offline. I would say collegial friendship, somebody who I thought I could trust and have conversations with about the internet and stuff. And those were never shit talking. Those were never, it was just like, oh my God, this happened. That's crazy. Oh my God, did you see this? Or, oh my God, how are you doing? Or honestly, talking about Disney, because that. Ashley Bounds said, can you give me a quick summary of what she's alleged did? What's going on? Oh man, I have no idea what's going on and can't follow what you're saying. I tried to give a quick rundown at the top. It's kind of hard because there's a lot of it. There's a lot of videos on it. I will list them. Start with Omnia's videos. It's a lot. Laura said, I'm sorry for everything going on with CSA. I can't imagine, and that's Creepshow Art. I can't imagine that finding out that about somebody who I thought was a friend. I mean, I thought I trusted Creepshow as a creator and as somebody I had conversations with. So it's just, yeah, it's a bummer. I mean, when you find out creators who you trust and trust them, it's tough. It's tough. So that's where we're at. Housewife and a hustler. You guys ready to move on to housewives? You ready to talk about more shitty stuff? Jeez, let's just get into some more shitty stuff. The housewife and the hustler. I should say it's only fair. I'm going to have to do another swoop. It's only fair. Chat, thank you for being respectful. I know that it is hard. There's a lot of feelings with this. I have a lot of feelings with this. Thank you. Thank you for being respectful. I really do appreciate the Law Nerds always minding the chat so that it is a safe place for conversation, and it is a safe place to say, yes, I can trust and I can verify. And yes, I absolutely believe what somebody's saying. And I also have questions about how this was connected. Totally fair. Hi, Fred. Are we saying hello? So thank you. And thank you to the mods. Hi, Fred. Where are we trying to get to the window? Fred was like, we need a palate cleanser. Here I am. No, it's because the bird feeder is outside of my window. That's why. No, it's because Fred loves me. All right, thanks, Fred. We're going to swoosh again and then get it. Sorry, tech. We're going to re-timestamp it. We're going to swoosh again. We're going to swoosh again and get into Housewife and a Hustler because I clearly hadn't finished talking. This is what happens with the trying to parse information that you're still in the middle of. Housewife and a Hustler aired yesterday on Hulu. Y'all. First of all, if you're a Law Nerd, probably a lot of what you saw in a Housewife and a Hustler wasn't new information to you. If you watched Housewife and a Hustler, will you guys put a diamond in the chat if you watched it? And let me know if you watched it. Diamond in the chat. So Housewife and a Hustler aired on Hulu. It broke down and kind of summarized what's going on in the Girardi cases and kind of did an overview of what's going on. Yes, it's deeper than that. Yes, there's more than that, but that's okay. Yes, there's more. You guys are like, yes. A lot of you are like, I'm watching it this weekend, which is fantastic. Yes. So a lot of you watched it, which is fascinating. For the Law Nerds who watch here, the legal stuff wasn't news to you. These are all things that we've covered, all things that we've talked about. The things that were interesting to me were hearing from the Ruigomez family. I think for most people, that is probably one of the most kind of shocking things in all of this. And I've said this since I've started covering this. What about the clients? I feel horrible for the clients. What about the current clients? It was interesting when they were talking about there being, one of the legal commentators was saying there were 9,000 current clients and like 900 cases. That was in one of the legal documents we read. A lot of those come from one large disaster case that's being worked out. So a lot of those clients are coming from one case. But I feel horrible for the victims that are going through this and then having to watch Housewives and having to watch the money. I think the Ruigomez family has been very open with the fight that they've gone through to bring light to what they've experienced. No client should ever experience what they experienced. It really is heartbreaking. And so for me, the part of Housewife and a Hustler that was absolutely worth watching was their story, because I've seen they've talked. What are you doing? Okay. Fred's fretting. I've seen their stories in the LA Times. I've seen them be reported on. I've seen them share their story, but it's different watching somebody sit down on the camera and share their story. And they really did. And I think that the documentary or the piece did a good job on breaking down their story and what they experienced and how many years and the decisions they had to make. And Kim Archie, had worked with the original attorney, Ed Masry, who was kind of the main attorney in Erin Brockovich. Get off that plant right now. No, Fred, just because I'm online doesn't mean I won't come tell you to leave my plant alone. Hold this cat. not playing with the plant. He'll do it. He'll do it. So, Kim Archie working for the original kind of the main attorney in the Aaron Brockovich case, and then going to work with Tom Girardi, and then bringing her friend to Tom Girardi, bringing a large case to that firm, and then you're having your best friend robbed by their attorney is shocking. And by robbed, I mean, it's embezzlement. It is theft. It is not an armed robbery. It's hyperbole, not in the legal sense of the word. I just can't imagine what that would feel like. And they really just broke it down. So I saw somebody asking, is there really anything in the Hulu show that was not covered here? Seeing the Rue Gomez family talk about their experience and seeing them talk about what it has been like for them. Their story, I think, was well done. I don't know why they needed to have Dana Wilkie and Danielle Staub. I don't know why they needed to have them in there. I liked seeing the other attorneys come in and talk about stuff. I was kind of shocked that the mother and the Rue Gomez family talked about the fact that he came in and was like, I've settled your case. I got questions about that. Attorneys can't settle your case without your authorization as a client. And I read that two ways, because heard that two ways. It could be, I've settled your case, like, hey, I've got a settlement. Let me tell you about it. Do you agree? Or it could be like, I've already approved the settlement. It's done. Just sign here. So that can be interpreted in multiple ways. I can see an attorney saying, I've settled your case. Here's the particulars. Do you agree on this? The voicemails they played, and they had a lot of voicemails. This is the other thing I would say. They had a lot of voicemails in there, and the voicemails are similar to voicemails I've heard from other victims of Tom Girardi. And it's the same voicemails that are in the lawsuit that we played here when we broke down the lawsuit from Edelson PC. Don't be mad at me. I'm a good guy. This and this. It's all good. Ugh. It was a lot. Fred, what are you doing? No. This is why I try to keep the cats out of the office when I'm live, because it's terribly distracting. So the voicemails were very interesting. So those are kind of the 2 points of the Hulu documentary that I thought were really helpful. The voicemails and the story with the Rui Gomez family. The rest of it, stuff we've already talked about, stuff we already know, the state bar not being involved till way too late, stuff like that. So that's where we're at. Fred is back. Fred is back on the desk playing with stuff he shouldn't be playing with. And I don't know why. Today's just, you're not going to let me be great today, are you, Fred? We've got a lot of topics to cover, Kat. Nope. We're going to have to kick you back out in a minute. That's why I keep that plant in my office, so I can keep them from messing with it. But he's just gotten a bit bigger. He's gotten a bit taller, and now he can reach everything from my desk. So, all right. That's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on The Housewife and The Hustler. Those are the high points. I don't know why. They had Danielle Staub, but Danielle Staub throwing shade through the whole thing. It was on another level. So, all right. You guys ready? We're going to get into Duggar documents. All right. Fred is now sleeping on my desk. All right. Perfect. Just hang out, Fred. Just hang. Such a good kitten. That we're gonna keep getting kitten interruptions. Fred loves being in the office. Okay. Pawnards unite, huh, Fred? Pawnards unite. Yep. He's here for it. Let's get into the new Duggar document. Are you ready? All right. I'm going to sweep, and then we are going to get into it. I've got to give trigger warnings because of the nature of the Duggar case. So let's get into it, and then we'll do questions. Oh, I heard Dr. Riley say, I see George. Did George come in looking for Fred? I'm sure he did. Don't go looking. I'm sure oh, yep, he sure did. Brother came looking for you. He came to claim you. He's like, you're not supposed to be in mom's office. George is back there. All right, let's get into it. We're going to swoop and we're going to talk about Duggars. All right, you ready? You ready? Topic. We're getting into the law stuff. And then, y'all, there's so much Jen Shah stuff. So let's Duggar it up. Josh Duggar. Warning. First of all, we are here to talk about the newest document and not rehash this whole litigation. These are all allegations. Go be with your brother. Go on. These are all allegations. He is being prosecuted by the, federal prosecutors. This is just a pretty basic protective order. Nothing dramatic, nothing crazy. Yes, Fred and George, like from Harry Potter. They're ginger brothers. What else would we name them? We name all of our pets after Harry Potter. All right, let's pull this up. Just a warning, we're not going to get into the charges here a lot. I will answer questions about this when we get to questions. It's pretty basic, but I'm going to go through the document. We'll go through that, and then we will move right along. So those are my warnings. This case does involve serious allegations. This protective order is not particularly wild, nor is it particularly uncommon. So let's just get into it. Let's make it bigger so y'all can see it. All right. This was filed on Friday, and it was filed because I did a sweep of all the cases I'm covering before Friday Night Live. So this would have come up after that because I did go look. So it would have come up later on Friday than I had done my sweep, which was kind of midday. So let's get into it. This is the case number, protective order concerning child victim and witness privacy. Now, this and in law, let me talk about that. This and in law can be an or, because it is one protective order. These are form protective orders that are going to be used for an either or. So this does not mean there are both. This does not mean there is a victim and a witness. This is probably a witness. So the defendant has been charged with the crimes. The United States is prepared to produce or make available discovery material to defense team as defined in paragraph 6 in order to do so while at the same time avoiding the unauthorized dissemination of information that identifies or could be used to identify a child victim or witness, hereinafter sensitive information. The parties have asked, both parties, defense and prosecution. This is an agreed upon protective order. This is not just the prosecution saying we're not giving them discovery until they agree. This is both sides saying we are getting discovery released to us. And look, in a criminal case, discovery goes to the defense. You just give them the discovery. That's how that works. Some things are redacted. Some things are under protective order, especially in a high profile case. But discovery gets turned over. It's not dramatic. There generally don't need to be discovery motions. It's a here, we're turning this over. But to turn this over, we need this protective order in place, and everyone agrees. The parties have asked the court to enter this protective order. It's designed to protect sensitive information from inadvertent, that's generous, or unauthorized disclosure. That's the one, which the United States believes would violate 18 U.S.C. 3509 and 377188. They define the privacy protection. They define the confidentiality of information. This is the law behind why they should get the protective order. This is not dramatic nor anything other than standard. They talk about what would happen if there's a knowing violation of the privacy protection, which illegal and bad. The protective order applies to all sensitive information and discovery. That means any written documentation, electronic data, video or audio recordings, or other materials provided by the United States to the defense team. Now, the thing that they did with the defense team is they narrowly defined the defense team, which is clear that they are trying to keep out certain individuals. So, for the purposes of this protective order, the term defense team refers to 1, the defendant, that's Josh Duggar, 2, the defendant's counsel, and attorneys or employees of the defendant's counsel assigned to work on this matter. That's going to be employees at the law firms. That can be investigators. That gets into here too. So this is the defense team, the attorneys on the defense team, stuff like that. 3, any other defense paralegals, assistants, investigators, employees, experts, translators, or third-party contractors hired by defense counsel to assist with this case. So investigators, people who are doing the forensics, stuff like that. Defense team includes any subsequent counsel of record. So if there's another lawyer down the road. Defense team does not include, this is the part that would have been added, does not include any member of the defendant's family. So if family broadly construed is a lot of people, and it also indicates that the defense can't just hire someone in the family as like, oh, this is our investigator, and then we can release them. This is very much, hey, defense team does not include any member of the family. The type of information that's protected is, with regard to sensitive information, this is going to be clearly defined, but with regard to a minor victim or witness, name, school, social media names, handles, or user IDs, home address, birth date, photographs, or visual depictions, any other information required to be redacted by Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 49.1. Then it talks about how the defense team maintain the information. And again, they need to maintain it in a way that's protected so it can't be leaked from their office. Anything filed with the court. So if they're filing anything with regard to the name, this is a generic name. This is what's in the protective order. It does not mean there's a minor victim in this case, but it would be like minor witness 1, minor witness 2, instead of using like minor witness AB, minor witness BC, or whatever, ABCD. So if they file anything under seal, they're not to include that individual's name or any identifying information. And that's all pretty standard in a protective order. They talk about the way that the material should be used, which is consistent with any other protective order. And that counsel for the defense represents that they have discussed this with their client, who agrees to be bound by the terms. Defendant and his counsel are required to give a copy of the protective order to all individuals engaged or consulted by the defense in this case. So if they hire an investigator, it's like, here's the information, here's the protective order. It's like an NDA. Everyone has to abide by it and not release this information. So it's signed by everybody, not super dramatic, not super crazy. And yeah, that's what that protective order is. I'm going to, you know what? I see a ton of questions on this. I'm going to talk about I'm going to answer a few questions, and then we're going to move on to Jen Shah, and then I'll do our big Q&A at the end. But I wanted to make sure I hit a couple of these because I saw some that just caught my eye. This is why I don't always have the chat on. Because I get distracted. Kibby said, is having something filed under seal the same as having something redacted? So when you file something under seal, it can either be the whole document is under seal or parts of the document are taken out and redacted. Something redacted means information's removed. Information can't be removed in a court document unless it's agreed upon that you're filing. So you would apply to file it under seal, and then parts of that would come out. Or an entire document can be filed under seal, but information can also be redacted between attorneys. So that's something I did frequently and spent lots of nights redacting documents on my own to make sure that information that couldn't be shared wasn't being shared. And that's the blocking out of information. Digital made it way easier. We used to do it with grease pens. It took forever, but blocking out information when turning it over so that information doesn't get leaked. In criminal law, that can be a very dangerous thing when information gets out that shouldn't. And it can actually put people quite at risk. But what I'm taking away from this is not that there's a victim per se in this case. Of course, the images used, there are children in those images. What's being charged here is possession. If there was a named victim who they were disclosing, that would have been charged, unless it's something to do with sentencing down the road. But even then, I think that information, they might not be minors based on what we know in the public forum of previous instances that happened when Duggar was also a minor. So if that was being disclosed, those individuals likely wouldn't still be minors. So To me, it seems like this is protecting of a witness unless they've identified the information of any of the minors in the images that were possessed. And that could be that individual's information, but that individual would be a victim as to the person who created the thing, not the person who possessed the thing, if that makes sense. So victim in a hands-on sense, it would be charged. Potentially the information of somebody contained in one of those images, potentially, but unlikely. More likely a witness in this case. So those are my thoughts on this. And that's what it is. It's not unusual that there would be a protective order for a witness, especially a minor, especially in a case like this, especially in a high profile case. Not surprising at all. And you guys saw that there were 911 calls from the family who has Duggar living with them under house arrest. They've already had the media like parked outside their house and stuff like that. So I'm not surprised at all. Are y'all ready? There's a lot of Jen Shah stuff. So the fact that we're 55 minutes in means we need to hustle and hustle. Let's get into Jen Shah shit because there's a lot of it. This is going to be an overview of Jen Shah shit. We're going to get deep into the Jen Shah shit on Friday. Today we are doing an overview and looking at what she had to say in her declaration. Are you ready? Are you ready for it? No, I know. It's not a singing day. Today is just you can't make this shit up. That's what today is. Today is a giant clusterfuck of you cannot make this shit up. You cannot make this shit up. From housewives and reality stars to internet, you can't make this shit up. Let's shaw it. Let's shaw it up. Real Housewife of Salt Lake City, Jen Shah, was arrested and federally indicted on allegations of wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Her attorneys filed a whole lot of shit on June 14th. They had asked for time to file. It's a lot of information. We're going to just dive into these documents and talk about it. This is an overview. I will do a deep dive because there's a lot here. There's multiple search warrants attached. There are lots of legal arguments. They are asking for a number of things, but there's also a declaration from Jen Shah. So we want to get into that first. Like, right? Aren't we all just most curious about that? We're going to get into the stuff we're most curious about, and then we're going to dive into the legal stuff on Friday because we just do not have time for a 4 hour. Like my brain can't handle a 4-hour live stream today. And the mods are like, oh God, don't even say that. That's not even funny. Though Fred's already taken a nap. So he's here for it. George is laying on him. That's both cats in a cuddle. Fred's in the back and George is in the front. They have cuddled themselves onto the chair. So now they've worn themselves out and you can stay, boys, when you are kitten cuddled in the back there. Let's get into this defense motion from Jen Shah. Are you guys just fascinated by this case? I'm fascinated by this case. What's up, friend? It's good to see you, Viper. I'm fascinated by this case. Both of them are back there, Dr. Riley. Both of them. George is just sitting half on Fred. Jennifer Shah. We talked about the allegations briefly. There's videos breaking them down. This is the defense motion. Comes now the defense. Coming in hot. These are the pretrial motions. The defense is asking for A, dismissing the superseding indictment for legal and factual insufficiency. Yeet. B, granting a bill of particulars. We have not broken that down into Law and Order Dictionary yet. Okay. Granting a bill of particulars. Tell us exactly what the shit is. Spell it with your P's. Spell it out more clearly. So a bill of particulars is you need to tell me more clearly what we're even being accused of. So what now? Say that shit more clearly. That's a bill of particulars. We want all the shit. Understand all the shit. C, suppressing evidence seized pursuant to 2 defective search warrants. So they are attacking the underlying indictment and in the alternative, because that might not work, in the alternative, asking for more information, suppressing evidence seized pursuant to 2 defective search warrants, so attacking the search warrants, or alternatively, for an evidentiary hearing pursuant to Franks v. Delaware. So, hey, there's some stuff that should get thrown out. We'll get into the search warrants on Friday. D, if you guys are even interested in me going through search warrants and talking about the legal sufficiency and insufficiency of search warrants, like we're going down the rabbit hole. But we have the search warrants. We'll see. We'll see. Granting a review of the grand jury minutes. Normally that's not going to happen, but we'll see what their arguments are. Compelling discovery of Brady and Giglio material. That is, we'll see what their arguments are and what they think is not being provided, because Brady material has to be provided. Like it has to be. Like you have to provide it. You have to do that, as well as post-arrest statements of co-defendant Stuart Smith. So they want to know what Stuart said. I'm sure that they do. Suppressing Shah's post-arrest interrogation statements in their entirety. So they're going to attack Miranda. They're going to attack what she said after she was arrested. But the details of the arrest are in here too. So we're going to talk about that. G, granting leave to file amended and supplemental motions. Like, oh, and also we need more time. Can we have more time, please? I'm going to take a pause right here because there are almost 4,500 of us in the chat, and I haven't said, if you haven't done the YouTube things yet, you could just go ahead and like and subscribe. It'd be super cool. You know, we work for you up here on this channel, and you can support that by liking the video, subscribing to the video, smashing that like button. All right, let's go. Christy, there will be lots of Easy 8 references. I think that's what we're going to have to call a bill of particulars. Spell it with your P's. Like they want to know exactly what is said, like exactly what's being alleged, because the indictment, we read the indictment. The indictment is like, you did some shit. They're like, no, but what shit? Like, this is a lot of shit. Exactly what shit are you saying that we did? I can get it. We'll see. Katrina, this is happening a lot that people are getting unsubscribed. I keep hearing that. It's a YouTube thing. All right, we're going to go through the memorandum of law, not the entirety, but just the beginning to kind of get the gist of their arguments before we dive into what Jen Shah said in her deck. Look at this. Like, okay, look, it's a lot of information, but it's laid out gloriously. So we stand a table of contents. I mean, they're required in New York. I get it. But still, we've read some lawsuits, y'all. We've read some clusterfuck lawsuits up on this channel. This is so lovely. It makes it so easy. Look, we've got all of the parts laid out. It is just a really well done, really easy. Thank you so much for making it clear. We know what to expect. So let's go through what to expect. The court should dismiss the superseding indictment as insufficient for failing to allege materiality. So they're not showing the materiality of the thing. The superseding indictment fails to allege adequately specific facts to establish that the conspirators agreed to commit an actionable wire fraud, or that they did so willfully and with specific intent to harm the purchasers. So this is attacking that you're not alleging a fraud because you're not saying what they did. The indictment fails to adequately allege the purported misrepresentations were material. That's the misrepresentations to the alleged victims, which is an essential element of wire fraud. It's interesting because this case is like 18 months in. There are people who've already pled. It does seem this is the first time this has been attacked, and the defense says it. Like, these are the first people who have attacked the government's theory of the case. But you've got to attack on some grounds. You can't, or not, unless you're just like, yeah, okay, we're done. The court should order the government to produce bill of particulars. Tell us more about that shit. All the fruits of the 2 search warrants should be suppressed. So this is getting into fruits of the poisonous tree, saying that if a search warrant is insufficient. So there's 2 things with a search warrant. If a search warrant is insufficient, or if a search warrant shouldn't have been granted, or the search warrant's bad in some way, anything you get after the search warrant is evidence that's fruit of the poisonous tree. The poisonous tree being the search warrant. I'm going to have to go back through and see why they use that analogy. But the poisonous tree being the search warrant, and then anything that was discovered from the search warrant all downstream gets can get suppressed and thrown out. Things that happen before the search warrant, not so much. And then the service of the search warrant. Officers can rely in good faith on a bad search warrant and not be held responsible that the search warrant was bad if, they didn't maliciously write a bad search warrant. So there's still a good faith exception there. That's more information than we probably need about search warrants. So they're saying everything from the search warrants should be suppressed, and that's going to be everything they took at her house, all of that kind of stuff. They talk about the Frank standard, the misrepresentations made deliberately and with reckless disregard. So talking about different statements from Shah, the statements and omissions were material to probable cause, and then they get into the affidavits, which we'll go over on Friday. The court should order disclosure of the grand jury minutes or review them in camera. So wanting the court to hear the grand jury, the court should compel production of Brady material. They get into why and what they think is Brady and what they think should be disclosed. This all seems to line up an argument of you just don't understand that it is actually a legal business. Like this isn't wire fraud. Post-arrest statement should be suppressed because her waiver of rights was obtained through affirmative misrepresentations by the arresting officer. That's probably going to be tough to prove. It's probably on audio, but we'll see. And that the statement should be suppressed. But let's get into, you guys want to get into the tea. This is all the table of authorities and laws. You'll see a lot of things we recognize here. Brady versus Maryland is you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Law enforcement officers just read those off of a Miranda card as I'm talking about Brady materials, Emily, transpose them. Brady materials, the exculpatory evidence that prosecutors have to turn over. So you'll recognize some of these cases. Franks v. Delaware, Miranda v. Arizona, of course, as I'm looking at this and talking about that. It happens. So quite a lot of different cases that deal with wire fraud, stuff like that. So that's their table of authorities. Are we done with the table of authorities? Yep. It's a lot. It's well organized though. Thank you. The preliminary statement we went through, this is what they're asking the court to do. We're going to talk about the background real quick, and then we're going to jump into what Jen Shah said in her motion. Jen Shah speaks. I need to get better at clickbait titles. It needs to be Jen Shah speaks for the first time since arrest. Something like that. Some of y'all give me some suggestions. I'll put them in. Christina Hobbs, that's hilarious. Love it. Miss Shah was charged in a superseding indictment returned March 25th, 2021. Don't we all remember? Don't you remember where you were when you heard? I had just gotten off of a live stream and my phone kind of blew up and I was like, what happened? What happened? Along with co-defendant Stuart Smith, with one count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1349 and one count of conspiracy to commit money laundering, 18 U.S.C. 1956H. The fact that this particular docket was pending for 16 months and the broader set of apparently related cases before this court since 2017 has required Ms. Shah's counsel to play catch up as compared to others, but it has also provided us with a perspective that has exposed multiple flaws in the theory of this case, the investigation, and the government's position with respect to certain disclosures to the defense. We note here in our argument below concerning the motion to dismiss the indictment that this appears to be the first time in the 4-year history of these related cases that a defendant has challenged the government's theory of criminal fraud, which is very, very interesting. Either everybody was like, I get it, or they did not have the money to fight it, or their attorneys were like, we're not fighting this because it's going to lose. I'm very interesting. It's always interesting to me when you've got so many defendants, and this is 2 cases, because this Ketabayachi or Ketabichi case has numerous defendants as well. So this has been going on since 2017, and this case has 11 defendants. So when you're the only one who's pointing it out, either everyone else is missing something or you're reading stuff into it. I'm curious as to what it is. Or she's just differently situated enough to say, I'm differently situated enough that they all might be involved in stuff, but what a me. Oh, Shaggy's so helpful in all things criminal defense. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. And if it was me, it wasn't illegal, which is the argument that they're going through here. If it was me, it wasn't illegal. So my supposition on this was, oh, business, business, business. The superseding indictment presents a bare bones wire fraud and conspiracy theory that does not adequately allege either the required elements of intent to defraud or materiality, and appears to rely on a false promise theory involving specific returns on purchasers' investments. So what they're saying is the theory of the case rests on the fact that people are being sold into this business opportunity and are promised a return on investment, but that wasn't a false promise. But if it was a false promise, it is a breach of contract or deceptive sales practices, which fall under the FTC. So either way, deceptive sales practices are a fine, like you don't go to prison for that. And breach of contract, again, money, 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 but you're not going to prison for that. So they're arguing, look, under what we're seeing, even if there is something wrong, what it's not is wire fraud. What it might be is deceptive marketing practices, and that's an FTC thing. Additionally, the superseding indictment is not at all clear as to its precise theory, nor which co-conspirators, companies, sales floors, victims, and timeframes constitute the allegations against Ms. Shah. It's like, where they're saying, no, it's a conspiracy, so it's between all of these dates, but the defense is saying, no, no, no. No. What victims, what dates, what actions, what did Jen Shah do? And they're like, it's a grand conspiracy. All the things. The government has thus far, with the limited exceptions described below, declined to provide additional particulars. That position is particularly confounding in light of the truly massive number of documents and other items that have been produced. Listen to this, y'all. Numbering well in excess of 1.3 million documents and the additional contents of hundreds of electronic devices. Y'all. This information cannot be adequately reviewed in a lifetime and requires, as we argue below, that the government particularize the charges in a way that this relatively bare-bones superseding indictment does not. So, hey, there's 1.3 million documents plus all the other digital evidence. We can't defend that if you don't tell us what we're defending against. This happens in civil law all the time when it's just like a document dump. It's like, oh, we'd like all this discovery. Okay, here's a quadrillion, trillion gigabytes, petabytes, terabytes of data. Good luck. It's all in there. We don't know if you'll dig through all of it. We gave you what we're supposed to. Good luck finding it. Bye-bye. This is a lot of information, but they have to disclose everything. So they're saying, hey, what exactly are we defending? Are we defending this whole conspiracy? What's her part? What do you think her part in it is? Finally, the flawed theory of criminality here, at least as to Shah, has led to a number of affirmative misrepresentations by the case agent, Detective Bastos, some of which led to the issuance of search warrants and others that induced Shah to waive her Miranda rights. The thing about your Miranda rights is they only work if you use them, and you have to affirmatively use them. Affirmatively use them. If you're like, no, let's have a chit chat, you've waived them. Because of the massive volume of documents, there simply has not been enough time to review, nor has Ms. Shah's team yet received any of the electronic devices seized through the course of this long investigation. I don't know if they're going to get the devices themselves. They normally just get the output from the devices. Toby, I appreciate this. Yes, that's the reference. I just don't know I don't know the first case that called it that. I was referring to the legal the legal history. Yes, I get the larger biblical implications of fruit of the poisonous tree, but I don't know which case. I want to know which case first likened the tainted search warrant to essentially Eve and the apple. I'm curious. As to some of these, Shah would have standing to challenge the search. As to others, relevant evidence could suggest or supplement pretrial motion, which we respectfully request the right to do. Then they get into the argument. So we're going to skip ahead from the argument to the day of arrest because they put in some information here. And then we're going to get to Jen Shah's declaration. So the reason I'm scrolling is so you can see how much information her lawyers have put together. Now, her lawyers got hired like right at the beginning of April. I mean, it's June. Don't underestimate the amount of work and expense that this took. Whether you like the arguments like Jen Shah or not, this is a fuck ton of work. Like this is a lot of work. You know that scene in Legally Blonde where it's like all of the law clerks are like, we're working on a murder case, and they're like super busy. This would have been like an all hands on deck. We don't have a lot of time. We have to review millions of documents of stuff, and we have to find some legal theories to fight here. So this is an all hands on deck kind of emotion at these firms. Just a ton of stuff. Bill of particulars. Yes, I could control F myself. I should do that. Wait, wrong window. Let's get a day of arrest. I think that's what the heading's called. If I just search arrest, it's going to come up too much. We're going to scroll. We're doing it well, doing it. No, it's always 90s music that gets stuck into my head. That's the bill of particulars. Search warrant suppressed. Legal standing under Franks. Yep. Those are the affidavits, which will be attached. Statements that Shah operated Thrive. So this is one of the businesses. We're going to get into these statements when we get into the search warrants on Friday. Statements that Ms. Shah operated Red Steel, which is another company. And we'll talk about it. But there are depositions attached from the FTC. So this has gone through the FTC already, which is so interesting to me. And we will see those attached. This is probable cause. This is the affidavit. When it says email affidavit, yeah, they got an affidavit for all of her emails. They're going to try to attack the validity of it, because if you attack the validity of the affidavit, that throws out the warrant, and then that can do the thing. KDD think it's a different company. I think it's a different company. Lots of companies can have the same name. This is the grand jury stuff. The court should compel production of Brady material. We'll get into that on Friday. This is about the purchasers. Post-arrest statements of co-defendant Stuart Smith. It's like, hey, we have a right to know what he said. Post-arrest statements should be suppressed. Shah moves to suppress her March 30th, 2020 post-arrest statements, or in the alternative for a suppression hearing. At the time, and this will get into her as I start my sentence and interrupt myself. Sorry, y'all. Today's that kind of day. As we get into her affidavit, she shares why she wanted to talk to the police. At the time she waived her rights, Shah was in a very vulnerable emotional state due to the combination of strange phone calls she received the morning of her arrest and her history with a convicted felon who had victimized her in New York. This caused her will to be overborne easily by the detective. And several affirmative misrepresentations he made in order to secure her waiver of rights. There's no dispute that the interrogation was custodial or that Shah waived her Miranda rights, both orally or in writing. So they're attacking the Miranda waiver. Let's get into the facts of the arrest. Do you all want to hear more about the arrest? We wanted to hear more about the arrest. We wanted to know about the arrest. We want to know. We want to know about the arrest. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the arrest. And again, these are criminal allegations. Nothing has been proven. This is the back and forth that we are doing. All right. Let's get into this. On March 30th, 2021, Shah was arrested in Salt Lake City, Utah, while on the road on her way to record an episode of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So confirmed for the Bravo network. Shah Declaration 8. I'm not going to read all of these because we're going to just go read the declaration. Shortly before she was stopped, a person who did not identify himself telephoned her and said that her husband had told this unknown person to call her. The unknown caller told Shah that she needed to return home. There was speculation about this, about if she got a phone call, and that's why she wasn't on her way to filming. That's why she turned around and was heading elsewhere. Suspected to be heading home, but we didn't know when the people were piecing together what happened that day at production, because the other women allegedly were stopped by federal agents in the van on their way to a cast trip. So I think they're glad they probably arrested her before she got on a plane. I mean, right? Miss Shah immediately tried calling her husband, but he did not pick up even after she called twice. Shah began to worry for him. Remember, the story was that she told the cast she couldn't film because her husband had gone to the hospital or something. Soon after, Shah received another call, this time from a 917 number. Where is 917, y'all? Y'all know this. Pop quiz. I know it's New York. I don't know which aspect of New York. Which aspect of New York is 917? The caller identified himself as Detective Christopher Bastos of NYPD. Shah was confused as to why an NYPD detective would be calling her, given that she was in Utah at the time. But I'm in Utah. What's this have to do with New York? Her first thought and apprehension, so this is how she was feeling. Her first thought and apprehension was that the matter was related to a different NYPD matter in which Ms. Shah had been granted a permanent order of protection by a judge in Supreme Court, New York County, against a man who had victimized her. And that will come up in the next thing. So NYC, so city, the city of NYC. Thank you, y'all. In the 917. I don't know. I've never lived in New York. Or most places, to be totally fair. We'll get into this individual one stuff in her declaration. Individual one was convicted of, among other things, felony criminal contempt for an incident in Manhattan in February 2017. Individual one had stolen from Shah, later violated a temporary order of protection by assaulting her in Salt Lake City. She wondered if Bastos was calling about that, and in any event, eager to know the reason for the call. So like curiosity killed the cat. Kind of. The detective did not tell her why he was calling. Well, no, she's in a moving car. Of course he's not going to. We would like, hello, Shah. Yeah, Shah amazing. No, we need you to come home. Oh, no, because we'd like to arrest you. Yeah, no, don't go to the airfield. No, just come directly home. No, we're waiting. Yeah, because we'd like to arrest you. That's not how that goes. They're not going to tell her why they're calling. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just not going to be the way. She was walked. All right. He did not tell her why he was calling. This is not shade. That's just procedure. But instead told Shah to pull over the car. And minutes later, he pulled up in a car with other agents. She was walked to the back of the car, placed in handcuffs, and told that they had a warrant for her arrest. Remember that part? Hey, we have a warrant for your arrest. These are words most of us don't ever want to hear. You don't want to hear that. But at that point, you do have the option to say, what am I being arrested for? And I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to my lawyer. You have the right to say that. You have a warrant for my arrest. Great. Arrest me. Can you tell me what I'm being arrested for? I want to talk to my lawyer. I do not want to talk to you. I want to talk to my lawyer. But you can't ask what you're being arrested for, and you should be told. Sometimes that takes a while. Miss Shah was at this point incredibly confused and emotionally off balance from the strange series of events and believed she might have been the victim of false identification. Not the famous Jen Shah. She repeatedly asked the detective for clarification, including, "Am I under arrest?" Well, the handcuffs and the "we have a warrant for your arrest" should indicate that you are, in fact, under arrest. Look, if you are put into handcuffs and somebody's like, "But you're not under arrest," then you need to be like, "Then why am I in handcuffs?" Because if you're not arresting me, why am I in handcuffs? Those are valid questions to ask. She repeatedly asked the detective, "Am I under arrest? Am I going to jail?" Which were phrases she used interchangeably and thought meant the same thing. I mean, fair. Fair. Bastos never answered either questions, but repeatedly said words to the effect of, "We just want to talk to you, and I promise we just want to talk to you." He also told her more than once, "We just want to make sure you're okay." I'm very curious as to the detective's perspective of this because they also said, "We have a warrant for your arrest." So the context of "we just want to make sure you're okay" might be "you're handcuffed in the back of the car," which can be very uncomfortable. So are you okay? I need more context to this. Miss Shaw was consumed with a desire to know why she had been placed in handcuffs and apparently arrested. Well, we've seen Jen Shah consumed with desire on the show. She gets fiery. Unbeknownst to Shaw at that time, Detective Bastos well knew who individual one was. So it sounds like they say that the detective knew about the underlying New York situation. For one thing, although he does not appear to have been criminally charged in this case, individual one is on the government's list of people involved in the scheme charged in Miss Shaw's indictment. Oh, interesting. Interesting. So Jen Shah's attorneys are saying that the person who was convicted of assaulting her and robbing her in 2017 is connected with this scheme. Oh my. That's some Sopranos level shit right there. And separately, the detective Bastos and Shaw discussed individual one and individual one's brother during her interrogation. Well, if they think he's involved with this, then yes, they're going to talk about it. Discuss it all. Oh, so interesting. Okay. Bastos drove Shaw to the ICE headquarters and took her into a break room with a circular table and 3 chairs. I wonder how they knew it was a break room. I'm curious. And they went to ICE because Homeland Security was involved in this investigation, is my assumption. He and a HSI agent handcuffed Shaw to one of the chairs and then joined her at the table. Look, if you are handcuffed to a chair, you are being detained. You have the right to say, "Hey, I know you would love to talk to me. I want to talk to my lawyer." Look, it is an affirmative right. You have to say the words, "I want to talk to a lawyer." And once you say, "I want to talk to a lawyer," they cannot ask you further questions. Don't try to explain. Don't try to tell them how they're wrong. Let a lawyer sort out how they're wrong. Not you. Not you. Not you. What am I being arrested for? Am I under arrest? I want to talk to a lawyer. And then all the conversation just stops. It just stops. What you can't say is, "I want to talk to a lawyer, dog." We'll get into the lawyer dog case another time. All right. Handcuffed to a chair, you're under arrest, you're detained. Detective Bastos read her Miranda warnings. That is, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you. Those things. When they say you have the right to remain silent, you can't just stay silent. This is feeling like a criminal law lesson. When they say you have the right to remain silent, you have to assert that right affirmatively. This is silly, but you can't just stay silent. You have to say, "I want to talk to a lawyer." You should be able to just stay silent and just be like, "Mm-mm." Like, can you imagine if the way that you activated your Miranda rights, like Miranda rights activate, was just like, "I'm exercising my right to remain silent by staying silent." silent. But no, you have to say, I want to talk to a lawyer. I am choosing to remain silent. I want to talk to a lawyer, because just saying I'm choosing to remain silent is not going to work. You have to ask for a lawyer to make the questioning stop. He also handed her a copy to sign as she read along. Although she heard the words the detective read, her contact lenses, thank you, lawyers, for lawyering. Her contact lenses, for clarification, which were in her eyes, were dry. And she did not have her reading glasses, so her vision was blurry and she was unable to read the paper in front of her. I wonder if she told the lawyers that, but we have seen her pull out her reading glasses on the show. Did she not have her reading glasses in her purse? Could she have not have just asked for her reading glasses? No. Even while being read her rights, because they read them to you and then they have a paper where you read along and then you initial each page and then it gets attached to all the things. It's like, you waived your rights. Here's your signature. Miss Shah did not know what was going on and still thought it might be a potential misidentification. Look, even if you think you've been wrongly identified, let your lawyer fix it. Don't try to 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 fix it. Says the former prosecutor, whose most of my cases had people, talking to the police. Makes it very helpful for the prosecution, but people get in those situations. They get in those situations and they're like, I can prove it's not me. If you can prove it's not you, your lawyer can do it way better than you can. And even if you're a lawyer, if you're a lawyer, the first thing you're going to say is, I'm a lawyer and I am requesting to speak to another lawyer. Anyway, we'll go on from Miranda rights. I'm sorry, I got distracted. Even while being read her rights, Shah did not know what was going on and still thought it might be a misidentification. She was eager to find out what was going on. Yeah, she wanted to talk to them. All of this says she wanted to talk to them. She wanted to know what the tea was. She wanted to know what the deal was. And she knew that others involved in these businesses had been arrested and she knew that they had been raided. So yeah, she was eager to find out what's going on. I 100% believe she wanted to know what was going on and wanted to know how much they knew, which means she wanted to talk to them, but I digress. Detective Bascos just wanted to talk to her about what he just wanted to talk. I'm backing up. She was eager to find out what was going on and what Detective Bascos just wanted to talk about a lot, and why he wanted to make sure she was okay. She believed the only way she was finally going to get an answer was to sign the paper and waive her rights. Or wait for your lawyer. Each time the detective asked if she understood her rights, he told her to initial next to the relevant statement of rights. At one point, she signed next to the wrong line because she could not see the paper. They reread the misline to make sure she understood what she signed. They're not going to say that she didn't waive her rights. They're just, no. Unless something else happened, they're going to be like, we read it line by line. We read the whole thing. She initialed it. And that's probably also on audio recording, if not audio and video. Each time he asked if she understood her rights, she initialed. After Shah stated that she understood that she could stop the questioning at any time for the purpose of consulting an attorney, right? They even told her how to activate her rights. Activate. I don't know. What's the Miranda rights activate? It's probably not this. Oh, it is. It maybe is that, because that's what you're saying to the police. I'm done talking. Done. Don't do that. Say you want a lawyer. But anyway, so they told her how to activate her rights. You could stop the questioning for the purposes of consulting an attorney. They said that she got a sign there. Well, I'm sure they said, you got to sign it right here. She followed his instruction. Oh, they're trying to say that he told her she had to sign. I imagine in context, just from watching a lot and listening to a lot of these interviews, it's like, okay, but before we go, you need to sign here and you got to sign here. It was instructing, not like, you have to sign this, because they don't have to sign. They can say, no, I'm not signing. I want a lawyer. Context will be very important here. And again, this is probably all on audio recorded. Shah followed his instructions. Yeah, that's exactly what they're trying to say. After she signed the waiver, even though she could not read it, but before the detective began his questioning, Shah informed the detective that her contact lenses were blurry. He and the agent found her contact solution in her bag, uncuffed her, and allowed her to fix the contact. Well, why not ask sooner before you sign it? She can't say, well, my contacts were blurry. I didn't waive my rights, even though they read them to me out loud, when all she had to do was say, my contact solution's in my bag, and they let her fix it. For real, for real. Then they recuffed her to the chair and began the interrogation. They recorded the conversation, but did not tell Shah they were doing so. Yeah, fine. Not until near the very end of the hour and 20-minute interrogation. They're trying to make it sound like that's a long interrogation. That is not a long interrogation. Right after he said, I want to conclude, did Detective Bastos finally tell Shah the truth about what she was being charged with? I don't think he ever lied to her. It's interesting the way they word it. I don't think they lied to her about what she was being charged with. I think from all of this, they just didn't tell her what she was being charged with because they wanted to ask her questions. Just like when they went to serve the warrant at Duggar, they didn't tell him why. They wanted to see what was being said. Notably, the interrogation in itself corroborates that the agents had no intention of telling Shah the true purpose of the interrogation and instead presents another highly misleading set of interactions between Bastos and Shah. The first set, I guess, being the telephone call. Under the guise of asking for information about other people he was interested in, he sought an admission of knowledge that the entire industry was a fraud, in his words. Although it did not work at the time, at no time did Miss Shah admit to committing fraud, as Detective Bastos repeatedly tried to get her to do. That's what an interview is. He elicited her apparent knowledge of certain people, companies, government investigations, and the like. Did you know about this? Did you know about this? Did you know that person? At least some of which the government will seek to offer at trial. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. Ooh. So I don't think they're going to necessarily find that she didn't waive Miranda on these facts. I just don't think they're going to. They're saying that although she waived her Miranda rights, she didn't do so voluntarily, but as a direct result of deception and trickery calculated to overpower her will. I don't think any of that's going to fly. In cases where, as here, the defendant signs an express waiver of Miranda rights, the question whether the decision to sign the waiver was knowingly and voluntarily made. She wanted to know what they said. She wanted to know what they said. The Supreme Court held that affirmative misrepresentations by police can invalidate a waiver of the Fifth Amendment rights, but it has not yet ruled whether affirmatively misrepresenting the scope of an interrogation is grounds to invalidate a waiver. Right. Because it's like, hey, we just want to ask you some questions is literally what it's going to be. We just want to ask you some questions. Let's get to her statement. We'll get into the law of this more on Friday. I don't know if it's gonna fly. This might fly, the more time to file additional motions. The defense got a lot of information dumped on them from a very, very long investigation that's substantially underway, which is why I think this trial date will probably get pushed. They do have the right. They've hustled. Clearly, the defense is working their asses off to get this done, but it is a lot of information. And if they think they have more motions, they probably should get the right to file another motion. This is the declaration in support. Let's get to Jen Shah's own declaration. Please go by your name and yay! I control F myself and it worked. Control F. Y'all that have been with me since when I first started covering a voluminous court documents on this channel will know what a win accurately using Control F means. GG, it's so good to see you, friend. Let's go through her declaration and then we're going to do questions real quick. All right. Declaration of Jen Shah. I am the defendant in the above captioned. I make this declaration in support of my pretrial motions. It's rare to see a criminal defendant making statements, but We're going to find out about this underlying case. This is getting into some, feels like some actual, like, I don't know, Soprano type shit. All right. In 2017, trigger warning. This is dealing with an assault. It's not graphic. It's just laying out facts that we didn't know about Jen Shah. We're going to be very curious. I'm very curious. In 2017, I was the victim of multiple crimes by an individual known to me, Individual 1, who stole money from me, violated an order of protection issued by a judge, and assaulted me, causing physical injuries. In brief, he was arrested in February 2017 for stealing from me in New York. The arresting officer was a detective from NYPD. After the arrest and arraignment, the judge issued a temporary order of protection, which Individual 1 was to stay away from me. He did not stay away from me, instead physically assaulted me on March 27th, 2017 in Salt Lake City, causing physical injuries documented by photographs and a trip to the hospital, which shouldn't happen to anyone. It's crazy to me that this seems to be related to this larger fraud scheme, which is why I said it felt like some Sopranos shit. But, you know, getting assaulted, not good. He also made multiple threats against me on multiple occasions as a result of his crimes against me. He was convicted in New York on multiple felonies, including aggravated criminal contempt for violating the order of protection. I wonder if he was also convicted of the assault, just because it's listed here, and it seems that if you're going to list it and talk about a hospitalization or going to the hospital, that you would have listed it here. That's just me being lawyer curious. Among the provisions of his sentence was a final order of protection issued on November 28th, 2018, which is in effect until 2026. Since the order was issued, I have remained concerned that Individual 1 will again violate the order and contact me further. A fair concern. Attached as Exhibit A is a true and correct copy of the order, redacted to remove the individual's name. So it sounds like the individual is not still in custody because she is concerned that the individual will come after her again, which is totally fair. That would be an ongoing fear for anyone who had been assaulted and that person's out, especially if the context is that this is part of this larger scheme. Then yes, I can understand that fear that as part of this larger scheme that they're alleging is a criminal conspiracy for wire fraud, that you would be afraid that that person might come out again. Events on March 30th, 2021, I was arrested in Salt Lake City while on the road, on my way to record an episode of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City for the Bravo Network. Before I was stopped, I got the unknown call. This is the underlying stuff that we went through in the writing of the motion, because the writing of the motion cites back to what's in this declaration. This is her lined out signed declaration. The lawyers relied on it. So some of this is going to be duplicative for sure. Tried calling my husband. He didn't pick up. They were probably already searching the house and took his phone. That's why he didn't pick up. I imagine they were already searching the house. I received a phone call from a 917 number. It was the detective. I was confused why a detective was calling me. I was in Utah. My first thought and apprehension was the call must be related to the order of protection against individual number 1. I mean, fair. I can understand why that would be the thought. I was eager to know the reason for the call, but this is setting up because I was eager to know the reason for the call, I wanted to talk to the police. It's not that I really wanted to waive my Miranda. I didn't want to waive my Miranda rights. I just wanted to know if I was safe. I wanted to know what was going on. So that's interesting. Police are allowed to use a ruse, by the way. They're allowed to do that. That is actually something they can do. So the police being like, they should have told her everything. They don't have to. They do have to tell you you're under arrest. They do have to tell you about your rights, but they don't have to give away everything. They sure don't. I repeatedly asked Bastos clarifying questions, including, am I under arrest? Am I going to jail? Which were phrases I use interchangeably and thought of as the same thing. He never answered either question. He doesn't have to, but repeatedly said words to the effect of, we just want to talk to you. I promise we just want to talk to you. After they said, we have a warrant for your arrest, I was walked to the back of the car, placed in handcuffs, and told they had a warrant for my arrest. I promise we just want to talk to you. We have a warrant for your arrest. We just want to talk. Well, she wasn't going to jail that day. They weren't detaining her that day. They weren't seeking to detain her that day. She didn't get detained that day. So they did really just want to talk. Not untrue. It's just lacking circumstance and context. But it's not untrue. Detective Basto's statement led me to believe I might be in danger and that the police might be there to help me. But they said they have an arrest warrant for you and they handcuffed you. So, context clues. I was confused, however, because I was placed in handcuffs. Context. I was at this point consumed with the desire to know why I was placed in handcuffs and apparently arrested. Now, just from seeing the show, this is my mind and speculation. Can you imagine how she behaved with the police? I imagine she was not thrilled that she was placed into handcuffs. Yeah. Well, I did not know at the time. I later learned the detective was well acquainted with individual number one. Well, if this is one of the lead detectives on this case and that person's related to the case, then yes. Bastos and I discussed individual one and his brother during my interrogation. Bastos drove me to the ICE headquarters and brought me to a break room. They handcuffed me to one of the chairs, read me the Miranda rights. He also handed me a copy to sign as I read along. Although I heard the words he read clearly, my contact lenses, which were in my eyes, were dry, and I did not have my reading glasses, so my vision was blurry, and I was unable to read the paper in front of me. Just tell them that. Tell them I can't read this. I can't sign it. Just tell them that. Even while being read my Miranda rights, I did not fully understand what was going on and still thought one explanation might be a potential misidentification. Ask for a lawyer. I was eager to find out what was going on and what Detective Bastos just wanted to talk to me about. Right. They hooked you with curiosity. They definitely hooked you with curiosity. Thank you, Cheryl. I have no memory for these things. I always have to write them down. I will have to go look. I will have to go revisit Silverton Lumber Co. And why he wanted to make sure I was okay. Because I was not getting answers to my questions, I believe that the only way I was finally going to get answers to my questions was to sign the paper and waive my rights. I need answers. Well, right, but that doesn't mean that you didn't waive your rights, though. So each time the detective asked if I understood my rights, he told me to initial next to the relevant statement of rights. At one point, I signed the wrong line. We covered that. After I signed the waiver, even though I couldn't read it, but before they began questioning, I let them know my contacts were blurry. Maybe before you read it. The agent found my contact solution, uncuffed me, and allowed me to fix the contact, handcuffed me, and began the interrogation. I was never told and did not suspect that the entire conversation was being recorded. If you are handcuffed to a chair and talking to the police, you're being recorded. Just a heads up. I did not know the purpose of the conversation, nor do you have to. At the end of the 1 hour and 20-minute interrogation, shortly after the detective said, I want to conclude. Then it was told during the period. And then she gives her actual cell phone number. I've not set forth all the facts to which I am aware. So it was just, hey, these are the relevant facts. And then the exhibits get into the restraining order. There's a lot of other exhibits here. There are a lot of other exhibits here. We're going to do a deep dive into the warrants and the warrant affidavits and stuff on Friday, because we're going to learn a lot more details about this investigation. So as we get into the warrant affidavits on Friday, we're, as I repeat myself, going to learn a lot more about the investigation. But we need to take some questions. I have questions. We're going to just start naming this segment, I Have Questions. Can we just put that on the docket? I have questions. I have questions. We need I Have Questions merch. It's I Have Questions. We need a jingle. We need an I Have Questions jingle. Kibby makes an excellent point. And yes, she waived her rights and was told they had a warrant for her arrest and was handcuffed to a chair. There was a lot of evidence here that they wanted to talk to her about things. Plus, she knew about the underlying indictments. I'm going to make sure that I didn't miss any super chats. I'm sure that I did. I'm going to get to those real quick as you guys are queuing up questions with question in the front. Thank you again, chat, for being respectful and respectful to our mods. Thank you for y'all's patience with me. I know I'm a little scattered today. It happens. So it happens. Thank you. On the docket, I have questions. Thank you, 8 Horses, for also posting it. I have questions. Oh, I think they're different companies. We're going to get into the companies. Make no assumptions about the companies. Lots of companies can be named the same thing. We're going to get into the companies later. Question more general than about today specifically, but what tips do you have for a layperson reading through a lawsuit for research purposes? Stick to what it says. And remember that they're all allegations. Like Bea Lucile is a tarot reader who I enjoy. I like watching tarot readings on YouTube quite a lot. But she says, all alleged, all alleged for information purposes only. Remember that these are allegations. Everything said does not mean it has been proven true in a court of law. And so while you are covered for the statements you say, where people get into trouble with reading lawsuits and not understanding them is extrapolating it to mean more. Stick to what it says. Stick to the thing says this. And if you don't know what something means, be like, the thing says this. I don't know what that means, but that's what the thing says. Because in a lot of this stuff, you might not understand the legal context around it, but you are allowed to cover and you're allowed to talk about the words on the page. It's extrapolating from those words that can become very problematic because drawing wrong conclusions can be a problem. Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate it. I'm gonna have to revisit it. All right, we've got over 4,000 people in here. I forgot to say, if you have not done the likey things and the subscribey things, and check to make sure you're still subscribed, there's a notification in my YouTube studio today talking about, we are removing spam subscriber accounts. Okay, it happens on YouTube. Everyone has spam subscribers. They get removed, stuff like that. But, go ahead and make sure you're still subscribed because they don't always just get spam accounts. They can get other accounts too. So let me go through and make sure I didn't miss any chats from today. Ashley Vincent, thank you for the catnip tip. I slept in and we'll have to watch Coffee and Cursey on the replay crew. Well, you're here at the end, and that is the I have questions, which is the best part. Kimmy said, I have 3 shirts, but I have questions. I am working on I have questions. I already asked my designer for I have questions. Question, are law enforcement allowed to lie to detainees? It depends on the particulars of the circumstances. As to some things, yes, they are. They're allowed to use a ruse. As to some things, no, they're not. So you can't lie to them about their rights. You can't be like, oh, we can't do this. But if it's not something that impedes their rights, then yes, they can. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. They do not have to be 100% upfront with like, this is our entire thing. AB sent a super chat saying, thanks for being you. Well, you're welcome, AB. It's the only me I know how to be, is the me that I am. It's too exhausting to be anybody else. Toby said, poisonous fruit of the tree. We pulled that up. Krista says, hey guys, I'm late, saying hi. Hello. Katie D, I have a ginger cat named Albus Percival Wolfric Brian Dumbledore the cat, but we call him Albus or Professor. Paw Nerds Unite. My deceased 17-year-old beloved cat was named Albus, and we called her Albus all the time. Yes, she was a her. We named her Albus anyway. We loved her. She looked like a little wizard cat. She was gorgeous. Anyway, we like Harry Potter named pets. Jess said, trust but verify 100%, but also people we don't know in real life are not our friends. Sad but true. It's way too easy for people to be fake via socials, texts, etc. Jess, always a great point. And always something that's hard for me when I feel like I've gotten to know people, and something I also need to keep being mindful of. Coding Roses said, AirPod tip, you can locate them and find my app with iOS 14 or later. I know. I'm so glad for the update. Laura said, I'm sorry about everything going on with Creepshow. I'm sorry for for like, I'm parsing through my own information. I'm sorry for her close friends, like Loie and like Ready to Glare. And I'm sorry for the audience that feels like they don't have answers and they feel tricked. It makes me sad. And that is caught up on super chats, the others I had gotten earlier. Okay. AD, you are absolutely welcome. AD said, thank you. I forget people listen in the background. And so then when I pull stuff up and don't read it, then they're like, what are you talking about? Thank you for covering the Creepshow Art stuff and commenting on it, commending Emily on her video. I can only imagine the effort, energy, and fortitude that her video would have taken to make. It's quite a lot. So absolutely. Question from, let me just move this over here so I can see better. Maybe this is more TV driven, but are you considered guilty immediately if you ask for an attorney after being read your rights? No, you have a presumption of innocence until you are convicted. So no. And oh, here's something people don't always know. People don't always know. This is really helpful. Tasha, thank you for asking such a great question. Here's the thing. Your silence after arrest can't be commented on at trial. So if you go to trial, the prosecutor can't get up there and be like, look, T, if they were innocent, wouldn't they have explained to the police? They said nothing. They were interviewed by police and refused to speak. Isn't that what people who are fucking guilty do? You cannot do that. Post-arrest silence cannot be commented on because you have an absolute right to remain silent. You cannot be forced to waive your rights. You can't be tricked into waiving your rights. You have a right to ask for a lawyer. And to protect that right, prosecutors can't comment on it when you go to trial. So it cannot be used against you at trial. Now, anything you say can and will be used against you. True fucking that. But your silence cannot be used against you. And I think people forget that your silence cannot be used against you. So Tasha, thank you for asking that question and allowing me to make that point that I forget that people aren't taught that your silence, what you say can be used against you. Your silence cannot be used against you. There are two attorneys called the Pop Brothers, and they do like shut the fuck up segments. They're criminal defense attorneys. And they're like, look, you just need to remember, shut the fuck up. And that's like their whole thing. They have like a shut the fuck up Friday where they give tips and legal tips. So if you want to know more about your legal rights, look, from me, I come from the perspective of a prosecutor. You have the amazing Natalie Lawyer Chick here on YouTube who brings the defense attorney perspective. There are other defense attorneys on YouTube. Nick Recated, the Pop Brothers, and others are criminal defense attorneys. And then you have, like Nate the lawyer was a criminal prosecutor and a police officer. And so you get the different angles from this from all of the different content creators here on YouTube. Kim, Nightbot gets cranky about all caps because it distracts me. So Nightbot gets a little sassy. So that is Nightbot. Question, will they check if Girardi spent, or should we say steal more because of Erika? Jacqueline, I think you're asking the reason behind it. If there's a criminal investigation, which I think there probably is, it was referred to the U.S. Attorney's Office. If there's a criminal investigation, motive can matter. But those are allegations that are out in that Edelson PC lawsuit saying that the money was taken to afford this lifestyle of the rich and famous, lifestyles of the rich and the famous that we see on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. But that motive won't really come into the bankruptcy. It's where the fuck did the money go and how do we get it back? That's the goal of the bankruptcy court. We need Fred's fretting merch. I mean, that's George. George is all ginger. Fred is ginger and white. So now you can see clearly the two brothers back there just hanging out. If they just want to hang out here all day when I record, I'm totally cool with it. Boys, do we have a deal? You guys just get to hang out and be the comic relief in the background. Fred is taken over the back of the chair. I have not tried blueberry booch. It sounds delicious. I'm gonna have to like move over this way so you guys get the paw nerds in the background better. Here, let's turn this so I can see. All right. We've rearranged ourselves for you, gentlemen, so you can be the stars that you are. We're back there having a bath. Question: when getting an echocardiogram, is it nor? I have no idea. I don't know. Ask, maybe the chat knows. Question: is there a concern that Creepshow Art was involved in the cyber issues that you and other creators experience? Not from my perspective. There's not, based on my investigation. The IPs that we bounced and stuff didn't come back to the same places that would have been reported here or that would have been concerning. So no, that is not a concern. Is anything possible? Anything's possible. And until there's a definitive answer, anything is possible. But I am not concerned about that. No. I am not. Why is Erika and Tom's case not criminal yet? Oh, it's only been like 6 months. Criminal investigations take a substantial amount of time. And we saw this in the last criminal arrest. Gosh, he was on a Nickelodeon show. Josh Bell. No, I don't want to say the wrong name because that's horrible to do to someone. My memory is failing me, but it was like a 2017 interaction and was just arrested. These things can take time. Cyber things take time. The bankruptcy court is still trying to parse stuff out. So if there is a criminal investigation, which is likely, it was referred to the AUSAs, it will take time for them to piece everything together. This type of criminal investigation could take years while they're putting together accountings and forensic accountings. So there, let's try to get the cats in frame. All right. So that kind of stuff can take years. So we don't know if there's an ongoing criminal investigation. There might be. It was referred to the AUSAs by the judge in Illinois. Question: what is a private judge? What do they do? And how much control over money do they have? Alana, this is a great question. This comes from Hustler and the Housewife. They talked about this. Tom Girardi was indicating to the Rugomas family that the judge who had been acting as the mediator, the retired judge who had been acting as the mediator between the family and PG&E, Tom Girardi was indicating, oh, the judge said I can't distribute the money this way or that way, which is all bullshit. So the mediator would have mediated the settlement, and the settlement would have been decided how much money, and then the money would have been distributed to the Girardi Keese firm. They would have put it into a client trust account. They would have taken out their fees and their costs and expenses. They should have sent an accounting to the Rugomas family and then sent them their money, or helped them invest their money and then give them an accounting of where it was. What was done was completely improper and illegal. So, and they've gone to court. They had to, this family had to, first of all, get over the trauma of the event that happened enough to realize that they were being re-victimized by their attorney, then realize that their attorney's not going to pay them, then try to find an attorney in California that's willing to take on a prestigious lawyer and a law firm. And you saw Kim Archie talking about it in Hustler and a Housewife, where she's like, who do we go to? He knows the DA. You know, he knows the sheriff. He knows the head of LAPD. He knows the judges. He knows judges on the Supreme Court. Who do you turn to? And they tried to find other lawyers, and other lawyers didn't want to step on his toes. So where do you go when people don't want to take somebody on? So they had to overcome that hurdle while in the midst of healing from substantial trauma from the incident itself. And then they had to go to court and sue their attorney to get their settlement money. And then he didn't pay. After they sued him, they won. He was supposed to follow a payment plan and didn't pay. They had to go back to court and then get all of the attachments because he wasn't paying on the judgment. And then they had to go attach all the property. They had to go through excessive amounts of steps and additional cost to bring this to light and to attach the property, which is why they will get paid at the beginning, I think, because they have liens on literally all of his personal property. What they've been through is horrible and shouldn't happen at all. That's hilarious and amazing. Question, does the Shah federal case have the same conviction rate as the Duggar case, over 90%? That's a general rate for federal prosecutors, and federal prosecutors have a very, very high conviction rate. They go in with all their evidence in hand. And the thing with these cases are they're going to tie together emails and IP addresses, but all of that's done through search warrants so it can be presented in court. In court, to present evidence, there has to be a foundation for it. So you have to legally show, how do you know that? Okay, well, I know this because this thing happened, and then we got a search warrant. And then based on that search warrant, we got this information, and then we got this information. And then you have experts or people who work for the phone company or the internet company coming in and explaining how it all ties back to a particular person. And that will get down to tying in IMEI numbers of a phone into this IMEI number for this phone. This phone has this passcode. This passcode is this person's birth date, which is what they're doing in the Duggar case. And this ties back to this and this and that. So that's how they do it. It's a substantial trail of evidence. And if you want to hear about how that evidence breaks down, look at my breakdown of the Duggar detention hearing, because I talk about how they, as I bang my microphone, how they tie that type of evidence together. In a case that is heavily digital, because it does take effort to tie all that together. And it takes a lot of search warrants to tie all that together. I am shocked that this stream, sorry, I was just looking on the back end of this stream, already in the yellow. We're going to just request review. I was on Eric Hunley's channel and he was like, just request review while you're still on the stream. And I was like, we've talked about all of the things. Question, what is your options on these really heavy television contracts? I don't know what heavy television contracts are. If you'll clarify, I will answer. I don't understand. I cannot. Question, why is it not guaranteed that you will get the money you want in court? Can they go after taxes, assets, etc.? They can, depending on who they is. You have to be able to enforce your judgment, and enforcing a judgment can become a whole nother circumstance. Some types of judgments can be discharged in bankruptcy. Some types of judgments can't. So yes, you can get a judgment, but then you have to enforce the judgment. And so, I'm going to talk about a lawsuit of a creator that I know y'all don't like, and that's fine. But Keemstar talked about this, and it's instructive. This is not co-signing the creator. It's an instructive lawsuit and a good example. Talked about the reason he took the play button from Romeo Lacoste. It's because he won over $100,000 in legal fees, and talked about not wanting to have to enforce the judgment. So he settled that. He got a judgment for over $100,000 and said, I will take less cash and I will take it up front, and I want the play button. So he didn't have to chase that money and try to enforce the judgment, because chasing money can be also time consuming and expensive. So we binged right at the top of the show, and we're over 2 hours in. So we binged at the top of the show, and I'm going to have to answer just a few more questions and then wrap, because I have an interview that I need to go do. Lily, I'm surprised people still want to defend Erika. I mean, it's at this point, there's so much. What we learned in Hustler and the Housewife is she was subpoenaed. We don't know if she was served those subpoenas, but was subpoenaed with regard to the Gomez case and that judgment. I mean, how do you not know? At this point, I have substantial questions about whether she knew that her husband took the $12 million from that family. That's enough for me. If she knew that and was still flaunting the wealth, we've got bigger problems. Did she know absolutely everything? I don't know if we'll ever know that she knew absolutely everything. Is it getting harder and harder for me to think she didn't know what was going on with the Gomez family? Yes, it's hard for me to believe she didn't know what was going on with that family. Can Erika be charged with possession of stolen property for being a beneficiary of the stolen money? Nikki, could it happen? In theory, would it be hard to track how the money went from the client money to which account to her, that can be difficult to track. If the AUSAs are able to track it, then maybe, but I don't know if it just, there's so many factors that it depends on, that there are so many factors that it depends on. I'm sure that's something that the AUSAs will look at, as to how much they can track the money, and if they can track the money into property that she might have, and then disengorge her of that property. Natalie, lawyer chick, we were just singing your praises and talking about talking about the reason that the you can't comment on silence post arrest if somebody invokes their right to remain silent, and not invoking their right to remain silent by this, but by actually saying, I want to talk to a lawyer. So we talked about rights. I also talked about how you talk about rights on your channel too, from the defense perspective. Yes. Mike, Megan, this is a question coming from, God, my lips are getting I've been talking too long. Why did the judge not ask where the $50 million in cash and $50 million in stocks went? It felt like something was missing. They only showed some clips of the video deposition that was done with regard to the Reed Gomez family. That might have been a legal choice. That might have been a production choice. So we don't know, but that family was trying to get their funds back, and there might be stuff in there that they've turned over to prosecutors, that they've turned over to the bankruptcy court. We don't know. I can only imagine how frustrated that family is watching this happen to other families when they were trying to stop this. Question, does Erika being shown as the secretary of one of Tom's businesses due to her credibility of not knowing what was going on? Can she use the excuse, or is it all about the paperwork? She can use whatever excuses and defenses she wants. In the bankruptcy court, it's not as relevant as any future potential criminal prosecution. Criminal prosecution is going to be substantially aggravated by the fact that he's in a full-ass conservatorship. And from a prosecutor perspective, it is very, very difficult to prosecute an accomplice or somebody who's receiving money and not having the underlying person, because they might not be able to prosecute Tom Girardi. Look, the criminal justice system can be slow, and it doesn't always get it right. And it is frustrating when you're like, this feels so wrong. What is happening? I know it feels wrong. All right, I'm going to get to this last super chat, and I've got to bounce because I've got an interview in like 15 minutes. So I adore you, law nerds, and I'm going to go. Lynn said, you said not testifying in your trial cannot be held against you in court. The jurist for the Chauvin trial who spoke out stated jurists did consider that he did not testify as a negative. I think the prosecutors in that case improperly commented on post-arrest silence, but it cannot be held against you, meaning the prosecutors cannot hold it against you. The prosecutors can't come in, and Natalie, lawyer chick, if you're in the chat, feel free to chime in, but the prosecutors can't come in and say, happy people just don't shoot their husbands. No, the prosecutors can't come in and say, well, only guilty people remain silent. Or if he had a defense, wouldn't we hear it? You cannot be forced to incriminate yourself. You can't be forced to testify. Jurors may perceive it one way. There's jury instructions that they are not supposed to consider it. They are not supposed to consider whether the defendant took the stand. They're not supposed to consider post-arrest silence. They're not supposed to consider it. You have the right to exercise your right. Exercising your right to remain silent doesn't mean you're guilty. It means that you're smart. Just keep that in your head. Just exercising your rights doesn't mean that you're guilty. Let your lawyers fight it out for you, not for you. Don't think you're going to explain something to the police. It's like look, here's what it is. And then I'm going to go. This is Emily's tip of the day. It's trying to explain yourself to, police when you're under arrest is like trying to explain yourself well on Twitter. It lacks context and nuance, and you probably just shouldn't get into that argument. There are certain exceptions to that based on circumstance, of course, and there always will be, but generally you need to let your attorney fight it out. So that is my thoughts on it. Of course, This is not legal advice. This is your options of your rights. You have to choose what's right for you in any given circumstances, and context and circumstance matters. But trying to explain yourself to the police is like trying to argue nuance on Twitter. You can wait. You can wait. I mean, clearly, yeah, you can wait. That's what it is. That's what it is. You have that right. Rights only work if you exercise them. That's what it is. Just like stuff gets taken out of context on Twitter, stuff can get taken out of context. Natalie Lawyer Check, thank you. The juror actually said that he was looking to hear what Chauvin's side, not that he held it against him that he didn't testify. And I'm sure all jurors were. Jurors want to hear both sides of a thing. They're just not always entitled to, because, defendants have rights. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Ashley Vincent. It didn't ding while we were live. We celebrated the ding at the beginning. Thank you all for being here. Happy coffee and Cursey words. We're going to get into the Jen Shah warrant affidavits and more of the facts surrounding that case on Friday, because there's a lot there. And there was too much to talk about today to get into all of it. We'll get into a new court of public opinion on Friday. I will be on social media the rest of the weekend. It's not the weekend. Fuck, it's Tuesday. I will be on social the rest of the week. For those of you who are at the end, you get a heads up. I will be running a giveaway this week. I'm going to start teasing it on social media. So if you don't follow me on Instagram and Twitter yet, at the Emily D. Baker, because this week is the anniversary of my first YouTube video that went up in 2015. Don't go looking for it. It's not there. I live reacted to it on a members only live stream, but don't go looking for it. But June 19th, 2015 is when I uploaded my very first YouTube video. So I'm going to be doing a giveaway this week to celebrate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Devil's Advocate, your icon is great. I love that Control F Yourself mug from the Law Nerd shop, and all this talks of exercise. I'm out of breath too. Will we get to hear discussion with Adam of Hustler and Housewife? I'm sure we will talk about it. I'm sure he's talking about it today. He might be live. Thank you all for being Law Nerds. Thank you for being here. I'm excited for the giveaway at the Emily D. Baker on social. I'm going to give the text crew a heads up to the giveaway. If you're in North America, textemily.com. If you're having problems receiving text messages, let me know. Make sure you're still subscribed, like the video, do all the YouTube things. I appreciate you. I will see you in the next one. Connect with me everywhere. I'm at the Emily D. Baker. If you guys want to join the text, just textemily.com. If you want to join the channel, lawnerdsunite.com. Happy to have you. Support what we do here on the YouTube.